All right. Well, welcome to the Couples Academy show. My name is Hassani. Hope you all are doing well. And Danielle is back in the saddle with me this morning. What's going on, Danielle?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing phenomenal.
Okay.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
You sure?
I think so.
Because I'm doing phenomenal. We're in this conversation, guys. We're in this conversation talking about addiction. Yesterday, we started off talking about the 3 levels of addiction and unpack level number 1. And boy, was there a lot to it. And so we're going to dive into level number 2 today. But before we get started, we always want to make sure that you take the time to like, share, and subscribe. Let the people know that they are here. I know.
It's okay, babe. It's okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't here yesterday. I see how you're
talking
flowing.
to the mic.
You're flowing solo today, and it's all good.
No. I'm gonna bring you in. We're gonna bring you in.
But I just want you to know it's all good. This is how you've been rolling.
All right. Well,
keep it going. Let's keep it pushing.
A couple weeks away. We're 17 days away from the Phoenix Awards Gala.
Now, can I jump in here and say something?
Yeah, just speaking to the mic.
Let me just tell you guys something. I can't hear, but let me just say that this gala, y'all, if you have not gotten your tickets, get your tickets, because if you don't, you are going to be forced to live vicariously through all the people and all the social media posts that we're going to post after the fact. And you are going to be gnashing your teeth, putting ashes on, and tearing your sackcloth, because we are putting everything into this event. And we want to see you there. We want to wrap our arms around your neck. We want to see you do a little 2-step with your spouse. We just want to see you there. We want to raise a standard for kingdom marriage, and we want you guys in the building. So don't miss it if you can. There's still some tickets available. Not many, but we still have some. So get your ticket today.
Get it. All right, guys, listen, the link is in the description. You can get your tickets today, and we will celebrate as we see you drive in, fly in, whatever you need to do to get there. It's going to be an incredible event. All right, let's get back to our conversation. As you know, we're in a series called Sex Addiction, the Addiction and the Recovery series. And just as a recap, I'm going to do this probably till it sticks. We want to give you a definition of sex addiction. And here it is. Sex addiction refers to excessive sexual thoughts, desires, and urges or behaviors that can't be controlled and causes distress and harm in the relationship, your finances, and other aspects of your life. Sexual addiction is also called hypersexuality, compulsive sexual behavior, and a list of other names. A sexual addiction substitutes a sick relationship to an event or process for a healthy relationship with others. The addiction becomes central to their life. Their secret life becomes more real than their public life. That's pretty much how it goes. And so a lot of times people who have these addictions are living in their pain, they're living in their shame, they're living in their guilt, they're living in fear, anxiety, all types of stuff from being exposed and just dealing with their spouse.
One thing that stands out to me hearing that is that a lot of times I'll hear wives say that their husband has a sex addiction because their husband wants to have sex with them more regularly than they want to have sex. And so for them, it feels like it's a sex addiction because why does he want to have sex so much? But I didn't hear any of that in there.
No.
But I hear that a lot, because the truth is that we have different sex drives, different levels of sex drives within our marriages. And so, if your spouse wanted to have sex with you 7 days a week and you only wanted to have sex once a week, there's definitely going to be a disconnect there. And you might actually think this person is crazy. They have a sex addiction. But that definition doesn't identify anything like that at all.
And we talked about that, a person who wants to have sex every day can be an indication that they have a sex addiction, or it may not be. There's so many other factors involved. So you can't just judge the behavior. Right. And to your point, the one who has less of a desire, unfortunately, we throw these labels on people that are just unfair and unfortunate. And so that's why we're taking our time kind of explaining what this stuff is so that it's crystal clear to people.
Look for other clues to help you.
Without a shadow of a doubt. So yesterday we dealt with level number 1, and quick recap, we talked about pornography, we talked about masturbation, we talked about compulsive behaviors, we talked about a number of different things that would identify you as a level number 1, even having sex with prostitutes. And it's just like, man, that's level number 1, then golly, what's level number 2 and 3?
That's what I was thinking.
So we're going to talk about it today. But what I will say is that no matter what level you are on, one thing that identifies the behavior as an addiction is the level of, as we just said, shame, guilt, fear, self-hatred, and all the other emotions that are attached to the behavior. So while I'm engaged in the behavior, there's an emotional high. And once it's over, there's an emotional low. right?
Sounds like addiction.
Yeah, because you're not going to experience that when you're having a healthy sexual encounter with your spouse. You're going to have the experience that's going to feel great. And then there's the afterglow. You both mutually beneficially, and, get something out of that experience. But that's not the case when there's an addiction.
That's so true. Like, recently I was having a conversation with a couple of ladies, and they were talking about masturbation and self-pleasure. And I was saying how for me, self-pleasure doesn't really do it for me because I want to be close to the person that I'm with. I want to be with you. And I was actually expressing that for me, self-pleasure would only bring me this emptiness feeling. Like, there was a release, to your point. There's a high, and then there's a release, and then there's this low. There's this loneliness low. There's this like lack of connection low that happens, that does not happen when you're with your spouse, right? So you did have a high for sure, but the low isn't too low. It's like a relaxed low, So there's something to be said for that. And I can only imagine that if you have a sex addiction and you are constantly being driven to self-pleasure in all these different ways, how the shame could just increase because you do get that high, but you're so low, just like with any other drug, after smoking cocaine or sniffing cocaine or smoking crack or whatever the drug is, after you get high, you're so low that the only way to pull yourself up out of it is to do it again. So it's like perpetuating that shame and that low feeling.
There it is. So let's dive into what these level 2 behaviors are. I'm going to start us off, and then Danielle's going to hit the second one, and then we're going to tag team the rest. But the first is what we would call just now. Think about this. This exposing themselves. All right. And so typically the stereotypical image of an exhibitionist would be like the flasher, the person who's wearing a raincoat or a trench coat in the middle of the day. It's a sunny day. And then they're walking down the street in a hallway, or I'm sorry, in a alleyway. And then they open up their trench coat to expose their entire bodies. And then they close it up and they run off. Right. We've seen that in cartoons and movies and TV shows. We've seen that. But that is just one form. We want to dig into what some of these other behaviors could potentially look like, because most people aren't going around doing that. Right. And so once again, they rule themselves out. That's not what I am, because I would never do such a thing. But let's look at some of these other behaviors. I'm going to be reading from this list. Number 1, they're driving or parking in a car with their pants pulled down. Okay. They're leaving their pants zipper open and standing in an elevator or a street or in a phone booth. They're having a strategic hole in a pair of jeans or shorts. It reminds me of Prince. Back in the day, how Prince would have like his whole butt exposed.
Which I don't know how he got away with that. Like the way we talk about people today showing all their body parts. How did Prince get away with that?
Entertainment.
Years ago.
Entertainment.
But I want to pause you in that because, you're talking about somebody having their pants down sitting in the car, or somebody in the elevator with their zipper pulled down. This isn't the typical weirdo, scary pervert that's flashing you that you're running from. This is somebody who, he could have a suit on, do you know what I mean? And just have the zipper down, pretending that it was an accident. And you're going to be like, oh, your zipper's down, right?
Right.
But you saw, and they're like, oh, thank you, zip.
Right. Trying to draw attention.
Right. But they're trying to draw. It's very intentional. They want that. And that gave them the high because they scored.
There it is.
They scored, a victim.
And that is a score. And that's the whole point. They saw me because I was looking to be seen. Here, let's go further. Wearing swimming trunks without liners. Okay. So you can actually see the form.
I've seen a lot of that, in Europe. You see a lot of that.
See that?
Yes.
Leaving curtains inadvertently ajar in a bedroom or a bathroom. So listen, let's say that I live in a high-rise building and I know the person across can see me, but I'll leave it open and I'll walk back and forth because I want them to see the goods. Or people who have sex with the doors, with the curtains open, and they want to expose themselves in the middle of the day. We see that. Ringing a doorbell in a secluded doorway and exposing oneself when the person answers. So it catches them off guard and by surprise. How about walking exposed in a shopping mall or a college campus or in other open areas? It makes me think of, and we've seen this before, like you watch a major soccer game or baseball game and somebody naked is running on the field and trying to get the attention of others and everybody's looking at them, pointing and laughing. But that is a high, right? That's an addictive behavior and somebody uses that. Think about it. It's one thing for a person to see me, but for thousands of people at a sporting event to see me and millions of people on television to see me. And now I'm the one who's identified as the one who did it. That is a sick high that a lot of people look to fulfill. And the last one is approaching a building with large windows, such as a library or an apartment building, and exposing oneself through the window. Now, these are ways in which people expose themselves. Now, what happens is because of the internet and social media, there's something called net nudism, right? Where you can do the same thing online from the comfort of your own home, and there's less of a risk.
And I think that society nowadays is perpetuating this, right? From childhood now, right? So this is something that people just, whereas in the past, you know, in order for you to have experienced some of this, it was because you come from a home where there's something not okay going on under your roof. You've seen your father acting in this way. You've seen your mother acting in this way. A lot of our behavior is learned from childhood. But nowadays, our children are being groomed from very small ages, seeing things even in Disney, subliminal messages that are exposing body parts and sexual insinuations and things of that nature, so that they're being raised in this culture of showing their body. I don't know if anybody has kids or has seen a school lately, but most of the young teenagers, not my house, but most of the young teenagers are walking around with half of the bottom of their behind hanging out of the shorts in public school. They're not getting sent home. So we are groomed to behave in this way to show our body. And unfortunately, we're being desensitized to nudity. Do you remember when you were a child? Like if something naked, if anybody was kissing too passionately on TV, your parent would go like this, right? They would cover your eyes until the scene was over. Now, like please let me see a heterosexual couple kissing. Oh, right. I just want any example of what I'm trying to foster in my household. Do you understand? Yeah. But nowadays, no, everything is exposed and we are being desensitized to this kind of behavior. So you may not have known, because Hassani talked about exposing, you know, the guy with the gray trench coat, ha, 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 and that's scary. He's a creep, right? But now it's the guy next door. It's the sister next door. It's normalized to just walk around in lingerie. I was at Lenox Mall down in Atlanta a couple weeks ago and with my kids, and I'm walking down the hallway in the mall, and there is a woman who is dressed with a lingerie top out, a clear negligee lace lingerie with her full breasts exposed. She had heels on and some pants, and that was her outfit for the day.
It seems like it's become a part of the culture. It's a part of the fashion. It's a part of the DNA of how we live life today. It
is. And this is why it's so hard to identify, because we just put labels on things, right? Yeah. You're an exhibitionist if you do all this. But what about all these other covert things that you're doing that are not okay? Like for you to walk around knowing that your nipples are exposed, wouldn't you categorize? You're showing your body to the public. Wouldn't you categorize that for you to walk around as a 13-year-old with your behind hanging out? Wouldn't that fit into the category? So here we are grooming children up in a society where that is okay, and it's not okay.
The moral compass has disappeared, and we're living in a different society today. One of the last aspects of voyeurism, and this is something that I know we've heard about, is this thing called cruising, right? Yeah. Cruising is when literally you are driving around in a car in the middle of the night and you're going to places like college campuses or parking lots looking for women so that you can take that opportunity to expose oneself. Now, what's interesting about cruising, one of the costs of it would be your time. Interestingly enough, when you're addicted to this idea of cruising, 3-4 hours will go by and you're not even aware of it because you're on a search to score yet again. And so now there's a web of lies and deception that takes place because now you have to explain to your boss, well, I thought you were going away on a 30-minute lunch and you've been gone for 3-4 hours. And now you got to come up with excuses. When you don't come home at night or at your regular time, you got to come up with a bunch of lies and excuses to cover up your actions. And then you've wound up masturbating and depleting all your energy. You don't eat, you don't engage in connecting with your spouse. You just go home and you go straight to bed because of this perpetual activity of sickness that has taken a lot out of you.
And I think this is a good transition because, we were talking about exhibitionism where you are, exposing yourself intentionally to get the attention. And that addiction is where you're getting a high from it. So you are, you have to be exposed and you enjoy being caught. There's something about that excites you and gives you life. Where now we're talking about voyeurism, which is a little bit different, but it's still part of the sex addiction. So voyeurism is when you are a peeping Tom, right? You look for porn movies. You like to see strip shows and things of that nature. You will find or hear stories, probably you've heard about some of the Airbnbs. You got to be careful because they might have vents in the, cameras in the vents in the floor or in little corners because the person that is renting the property to you is a voyeur, has voyeurism as an issue and is watching. And so this is part of what's going on, that they get a thrill out of sneaking around and seeing somebody naked or performing sexual acts and nobody knew that they were watching, right? So it's a whole different thing. Like, I think the thrill of it all is that nobody knows that I'm watching you and I'm seeing you. And there might be a situation where they're losing hours and hours of time because there's this one house that they know they might have a chance that this person might walk by nude. So they'll actually park somewhere far away with binoculars. I don't want to scare people, but this stuff is going on, right? And they'll sit there for hours and hours waiting for just that moment. But as they're sitting there, they're feeling shame. Why am I doing this? This is sick. I'm a pervert. What is wrong with me? Why can't I stop? Why am I doing this? And so they're going low, right? Because we're talking about the highs and the lows of addiction. So they're just going lower and lower and lower. They're sinking more and more as they sit there feeling their own low self-worth and shame. But then they get a glimpse and there's the high. So the only way for them to get out of the sunken from this addiction is to see staking out, right? Feeling the low self-worth and the shame because nobody knows about this secret life of seeing, of sneaking to see people nude. So what a dark and lonely place to be for that person, right? This is somebody that they are struggling. They need help. They are driven to do this. It's like being a prowler, but you're stealing, visuals. You're stealing visuals.
And you're making a good point, right? The risk reward factor in this, because to your earlier point, a person who is engaged in this type of activity, they could go to a topless bar or a strip club. They could find someone to engage in sex with that is interested in them. They could pay for even prostitution
which
sex,
which
is still a problem.
Right.
But
that's not where
for some reason, that's not what the thrill. And that's the point. It's almost like I don't want to actively engage in something that is more socially acceptable. I want to go on the side of risk because I'm addicted to the thrill. I'm addicted to excitement. I'm addicted to the danger element attached to this behavior. Now, that's something all within oneself. And a lot of that comes from childhood trauma. Things that happen in your childhood that you have not healed and recovered from. And so there's this hatred and this anger that you have, and it manifests itself outwardly by breaking rules. See, it's almost like, you know what, this happened to me and I wasn't in control. So now I'm going to take my control back and I'm going to break the rules and I'm going to do things that violate. And that's the drive.
Yeah. I mean, because we're groomed from children, whether somebody's intentionally grooming us or social media is grooming your children. We are groomed from childhood. So where it might have been natural back in the day for little kids to be like, show me yours, I'll show you mine. And then, at 5 years old, you realize, oh my gosh, a boy has that and I have this, that was innocence, right? That was kids who just were discovering, wow, there are different body parts. Now it's a whole other ball game. It's like, let me show you what I know how to do. which is completely different because they've seen it. They've seen it in film. They've seen it in print. They've seen it on social media. They've heard about it on the radio. They heard sounds. It's shocking to hear because kids are so brilliant. Kids are so smart. When you hear these young kids and you see them on social media saying things and repeating things, they are emulating what they are being shown out here in this world because we learn more by what we see. More than what people tell us to do, right? So it's a sick thing. And this grooming can take place early on because what if you were a child that you actually had the opportunity to be the peeping Tom in your house? Maybe your mom wasn't married and you saw your mom have a lot of sex and you were sneaking and peeping. That creates the appetite. In that moment, you felt ashamed. Should I be seeing mom do this? Oh man, I feel bad, but you're doing it and you keep watching and now you grow up with this habit that causes you to feel tremendous shame, so low, but you need the high in order for you to get out of that sunken place.
No, you didn't say something there. Yeah.
Because I know some of this from experience. But I ain't got to go and expose folks. But, some of this is from experience. And so I know there's people out there that know what I'm talking about, being raised in a certain toxic environment where you were exposed to things that created unhealthy and unnatural appetites within you. And you've never known what to do about it. The hope here is that you can do something about it. Just like somebody can be recovered from an alcoholic addiction or a drug addiction, you can also recover from sexual addiction. I think it's important for you to understand that it is an addiction that you need recovery from. And I think society is doing a really good job at normalizing something that is unhealthy, that is sick, and that needs medical attention.
Yeah. And the change really starts with self-awareness, which then leads to self-actualization. But you brought up a point I want to go back to because you said as children, and this is typically what happens. Think about spinning the bottle and doing all types of games. Let me show you my stuff and let me see your stuff. And there's a childhood naughtiness, but innocence
Not that
to
I
it.
approve of that.
Right? No. I understand that.
Okay.
I understand that. But what I'm saying is, when you enter into an adult relationship, there's an aspect of that as well. Now we're in an adult, healthy relationship. It's just like, I want to see your stuff. You want to see my stuff? Now, what happens in that? That makes sense within the confines of a mutually beneficial, closed, committed relationship. But what happens is the peeping Tom has a desire to see someone else's stuff. So they're holding on to the eroticism in that experience, and they're depriving themselves of the intimacy that is needed in that experience because they're forcing someone else's will, either by exposing themselves or wanting to be seen. And so what it is it's an unhealthy relationship. So though the addicted person may exist in a relationship, in a marriage, when these things can take place, the addiction drives them out of that committed relationship and forces one's will with people that he or she doesn't have a relationship with to get that same high and that drive. We're talking about sex addiction, guys. Man, what we're going to do is, you going to say something?
I was, but go ahead.
Oh, well,
are you taking a break?
I was going to go. Is that all right? And then we're going to go to a quick commercial break. We'll be right back and come back with more goodies. Danielle's dropping bombs over here. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Couples Academy app. The Couples Academy app is your go-to hub for how to do marriage right. Get started with our app today by perusing our amazing features that conveniently allow you to connect. This app is packed with powerful content and resources to help you grow and stay connected. With this app, you can watch our messages, find marriage resources, watch, listen, and read the real-life stories of restored couples, sign up for events, read articles and blog posts, stay up to date with push notifications, share your favorite messages via Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or email, and download messages for offline listening. For more information about the Couples Academy app, go to couplesacademy.org.
We're back. We're talking about level number 2 of sex addiction. And we basically started off by talking about exhibitionism and voyeurism. And there was a point that you were trying to make there.
I did, because I think it's important for us. You know, we are a couples academy, right? So here we are talking about sex addiction. The big question is, are you identifying some of those qualities within yourself, right? That maybe you did not even know that you had these symptoms. Maybe your spouse has been, you know, throwing that word around, like you're a sex addict, and, you know, it comes out as an insult. You're not really trying to receive it. But now that you're hearing this, maybe some of this is standing out to you, like, yeah, I do that. I do this. And maybe you need to reach out. Definitely reach out to us. However, you know, there's this whole conversation about the marriage bed being undefiled. And that's a scripture, right? Mm-hmm. But you can defile the undefiled marriage bed, mm-hmm. right? There are some things that we are not to do. And we're only covering an outline of sex addiction. It goes so much deeper. Oh, you can be bringing people into your bedroom, marriage defiled. You know, you can do all kinds of things. So I just want us to put some of this into perspective, that, you know, there are some things that you might have been hearing that your spouse has been saying, and this act of sex or sexual act, whatever you've been doing, maybe has made them feel uncomfortable. And you've thought, well, we're married. I should be able to do this with you. I should be able to express this with you. And some of these things lead to toxic behaviors in the bedroom. And I won't get into it because, you know, we could get into the weeds of all the different things that we have heard, being that we work with couples, that take place in the bedroom that are actually sick and demented, unhealthy for many reasons, can cause disease and damage to the body, right? Certain things that can be done in the bedroom. You can defile the marriage bed. So if any of this is resonating with you, please reach out to us so we can get you into some support and get some help to you, so that you can start to figure out, where am I at? What level am I at? Am I on a level at all? Okay.
That kind of leads to this question. I might as well just hit it right now, based on what you just said. Jackie had a question. Do you think there should be treatment for the addiction before you try to resolve marital issues? Absolutely not, because, you know, this is something that you're doing simultaneous to restoring the relationship. And it speaks to a larger issue that I think a lot of people have about counseling. Like, you know what, I'm gonna work on me, you work on you. And then when we figure things out, or when we get better, then we can work on the marriage. And at the end of the day, you're always going to be working on you. That never stops, right? Once you fix or restore one area of your life, then there's something else to work on. So there's always going to be something to restore. There's so many programs out there that treat both the person with the addiction and the partner of the addiction. And that's exactly what we do here at Couples Academy. So there is an individual path for each of you, because you both need to be healed and restored in certain ways, because you're on opposite sides of the offense or the pain or the addiction. And then there's the marital path that you two have together. So it's a journey that you're taking simultaneously. And the example that I always give is, it's a highway. There's not one lane on the highway. There are 3 to 4 to 5 lanes, and you can be in multiple lanes at the same time, going in the same direction. But it's about making sure that you have enough time to address all of those issues. Some are done separately, some are done simultaneously. So I hope that answers the question. The last point I want to bring up, we're talking about level 2. Okay, of this addiction. And what we have here are indecent calls and indecent liberties. Okay, what does that look like? It's like, I'm going to pick up the phone and call a random number, and I'm going to be a pervert and ask all types of sexual questions to throw you off guard, right? And it's just like, oh, like the embarrassment, the shame, but you get a thrill out of talking about certain things or asking certain things that cause discomfort. But the other piece is, it's really the indecent liberties. Now, we've seen this before as I begin to explain it to you. An indecent liberty is, listen, we're in a crowded mall, right? We're on a crowded train, and I take the liberty to accidentally, inadvertently brush up against your breast, or to grab your butt.
Anybody who rides New York City subways, you know what it is. You already know what it is, because exactly that. It's so tight, right? And they can just, have a nice rhythm of accidentally bumping their body parts up against you. Indecent liberty.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Wow.
Or, hey, when you was going to the club and you were getting your dance on, then all of a sudden a person starts just fondling you, right?
So that was approved.
Okay, well,
back in them days.
sometimes, right?
Let's
I'm
be
just
honest
saying.
about that.
I'm just saying.
Go on.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. There's all types of scenarios here, but you are going against another person's will to fulfill a desire of yours. Yes.
And I have some other ones because there's more than just that. Think about those two scenarios that Hassani just mentioned. But nowadays, because we have social media, I opened up my Google Drive the other day and someone just, I don't even know how they did it, but slid in the Google Drive a nude photo, this lady saying, I need sex. Right. So that wasn't approved by me. Right. So how many other ways are we being intruded upon by people without our permission?
It happens. It happens every day. And so
DMs, sliding in the DMs.
We're talking about this so that you can self-assess. Is this something that you do? Is this something that your spouse does? And the reason why we're unpacking this slowly but surely so that you have a comprehensive understanding of what the situation is that you may be dealing with and how to get the appropriate help. Now, listen, we're coming to the end of the show. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about level number 3. There's some other activities out there that you need to be mindful of. But if you find yourself in this situation, because some of you, I'm reading your comments, you're saying, oh my God, that's my spouse. Yes, we've been dealing with this for years, but you don't have to continue to deal with this. You can change your lifestyle. You can help reshape your destiny. Reach out to us today.
Yeah. And I want to, Hassani just said something that sparked a thought. I really want you to, if this resonates with you, if you're dealing with it, or you think your spouse is dealing with that, put that in the comment. Say, I'm dealing with this. My spouse is dealing with this. I just want an account of who's out here resonating with it and struggling with this, because I just don't believe with all of the inundation of sex and images and all the content is coming at us 24/7. People are being affected. It is an agenda to desensitize us to sex. So I know more of you than not are dealing with it. Expose it, because this is about exposing the enemy. And then you're going to come here and get some help and you're going to get right and you're going to reform all of it. But go ahead and put that in there. The show is going to end. Put the comments in. When you see the replays, put the comments in and we will see it. I just want to know what's going on out here in these streets.
Come and get the help. Listen. It's really frustrating to see people go through this and they don't do anything about it. They complain about it, right? They vent, right? You can see them in their pain, but they don't do anything. And Couples Academy is here to call you up, not to call you out, but to call you up so that you can call us up. So that we can engage in a conversation on the phone and begin to work on a restoration plan for you. But thanks for tuning in today. Hope you got something out of it. Tomorrow, part 3. But until then, have a great day. See ya. Take care.